Maximize your content's reach and engagement by recycling and reformatting your existing material. You do not need to be posting brand new content every single day. It's going to exhaust you. It's going to overwhelm you. You are going to burn out, and your content's not going to have the energy it needs to convert a sale. Hey, what's up, you guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Socially Ausome Podcast. I'm Alyece Smith, your go-to social media marketing coach. And today we're diving into the magical world of content repurposing. And yes, I said magical world because it's so important that you understand best practices for repurposing your content across all social media platforms. And we're going to talk specifically about how to rinse and repeat your content for maximum impact and maximum sales. Because let's be real, who has time to create brand new content every single day? Not me, and definitely not you. So let's get into it. First things first, I want to just talk a little bit about why you should repurpose your content, because a lot of people are worried that, oh, people have seen that, or my audience has seen that before, or I sound repetitive. Newsflash, marketing is all about iteration. Marketing is all about being repetitive. Okay, so let's talk about, how it's more efficient, how it extends the lifespan of your content, and how it helps you reach different audiences on different platforms. I want you to kind of think of it like a buffet, right? You don't just go to a buffet and eat one thing. You sample a little bit of everything. So tip number one here is start with your high-performing content. Look at your analytics and find the pieces of that go-to content that got the most engagement. These are your golden nuggets, right? If people loved it once, they'll love it again. So I'm going to give you a real life example. I posted a piece of content on TikTok a couple weeks ago. It was about how to make your hooks more transformational so that you can have people watching your videos longer and driving more sales. People loved it. Okay. It went semi-viral. I say semi because it's not the most viral video I've ever had, but it was one of the highest engaging. So what did I do? I transcribed that video. I turned it into a Facebook post. I turned it into about 10 different threads or tweets, wherever you are, put it on my Instagram stories, some of the verbiage from the video. And then I used the transcription as a caption for an Instagram reel, because although that TikTok was about hooks, specifically on TikTok, hooks still apply on Instagram, Facebook, threads, everywhere. Right? So the context of the video was the same. Now that's how I repurposed that video, but I also recycled it. So I filmed the exact same video, almost word for word, just a different shirt, changed the hook just so it didn't look like copy paste, posted it the next week, and it did the same thing, right? So it really is about how can we work smarter, not harder. So when I curated it and repurposed it, each format reached different segments of my audience, and it keeps that engagement rolling on that topic. When I recycled it, it's putting it back into the viewers that saw it the first go around, because we all know with the marketing rule of 7, people need to see your stuff multiple times. So if they saw it the first time I posted it and engaged with it, they see it again, it'll finally start to click. Okay. So tip number 2, change the format a little bit, right? So, tip number 1, we really talked about starting with your high performing content. You don't want to repurpose or recycle something that didn't perform well. Now, I will tell you, ninja tip here, just because it didn't perform well doesn't mean it's not engaging or not valuable. It could be the hook needs work. It could be that the call to action needs work. So don't throw all of your content into the wind if it doesn't perform well the first time. Look at it, evaluate it, especially if you feel really deep in your gut it was a good piece of content, and change the hook, tweak the call to action, see how you can make it better instead of just throwing it out. Because honestly, when you're looking at your social media content, you need to be saying the same thing over and over and over. So if you can get crafty at how you say one thing 100 ways, you'll see more success with your content. Tip number 2 is changing the format, right? So we talked about how I transcribe that video. I use it for multiple pieces of content. I also, will take my transcriptions and turn them into emails. But it's like kind of giving your content a makeover. And who doesn't love a makeover, right? But it's working smarter, not harder, because you're not having to recraft or start from scratch every single day. Another example, for instance, one of my podcasts about creating engaging content was really popular. It got a lot of downloads. So I converted that episode, I transcribed it, and I pulled pieces from that transcription that I felt were extra insights or extra valuable. And then I took those main points and turned them into 3 different TikToks. I turned them into 3 different reels. I turned them into 3 different Facebook posts. So you're getting my drift here, but each version of the content reached a different part of my audience and kept them engaged in new ways. So a lot of your audience will be following you on multiple platforms, especially if you're super valuable and they want to make sure they don't miss anything. But the beauty of this is if someone is following me on 3 or 4 different platforms, again, they're going to see that marketing message over and over and over, and it's going to condense that amount of time that they need to make the decision to work with me. Okay. So tip number 3, I want you to update your old content. We just talked about this a little bit, but having evergreen content is most important because, and what I mean by evergreen is something that will always be relevant, right? It's nice to do trends and tips and things like that, but honestly, they go to the wayside, right? They expire. There's an expiration date on some of those. So I recommend 90% of your content be evergreen. And that's going to be things that relate to your ideal client that won't change, right? So things that will stay relevant forever. So for me, talking about hooks in your content, that's just copywriting basics. That's going to be around forever, right? But take some of your old content, give it a fresh coat of paint with some new examples, update some statistics if you like to use statistics or numbers, or even a different perspective. But this keeps it fresh and engaging. So let me give you an example. I had a TikTok I did in 2023 about top TikTok trends for 2023. And instead of letting it kind of gather dust and say, well, it's not 2023 anymore, I did a video that was about top TikTok trends for 2024. And I updated some of the information as far as like TikTok updates or what we see working based on the algorithm. But the beauty of it is because I recycled that 2023 video in January about 2024 now, I've also recycled that same video in March and in June. So now that one piece of content I created back in January, I've already used it 3 times, right? And then I transcribed it and I did it like a carousel post on TikTok. I repurposed it. So not only did it breathe kind of new life into the content that worked really well for me in 2023, but it also showed my audience that I am on top of the latest trends and I'm someone they want to follow to make sure that they are staying up to date on TikTok marketing efforts. So finally, don't forget to, promote it, right? Just because it's repurposed doesn't mean you can slack on promoting it. Doesn't mean that you're like, well, people are going to know I already did this, so I don't want to talk about it. Share it across your channels, schedule it in your content calendar, make sure it gets the attention it deserves, send an email to leverage that piece of content, letting people know, like this was one of my top performing pieces of content back in, January. I decided to update it and make it fresh for you so that you get new information. Check it out here. You can acknowledge the fact that it's a repurposed piece of content and that you've updated it and make that a value piece for your audience. Like, hey, I updated this for you, right? So one last story to kind of drive this point home. I repurposed a very successful Facebook Live session into a series of LinkedIn posts. So I had a Facebook Live training. If you don't know, I do trainings every Wednesday at noon Central Standard Time in my free Facebook community. You can actually get the link to join my community in the show notes below. But I had a Facebook Live that got 10 times the engagement than any other live I've ever done. So I transcribed it. I actually used TurboScribe. Write that down. TurboScribe is a free transcription service you can use to do 3 times per day for free. But I turned it into a series of LinkedIn posts. There was so much marketing value in that live and people loved it that why waste it, right? So this approach not only increased my LinkedIn engagement, but it also drove more views to the original Facebook Live. So there you have it, the power of repurposing your content, maximizing impact with minimal effort. I want you to really look back and see how can you recycle your content and start working smarter, not harder. Okay. As always, if you got any value out of this episode or any episodes I've put out into the world, I would absolutely love for you to subscribe, leave a review. It is the best compliment that you can give. It's my love language. Share this episode with your business bestie. They need to hear it too. You do not have to create new content every single day. And as always, check the show notes. I've got my Facebook group down there where I do free trainings every single week. And we have tons of ways that you can work with Socially Awesome to make your business simple, social, and awesome. I'll see you next week.